Hey everyone, Greta here. Today we are going to talk about how to keep your lower back happy when transitioning from a side plank or wild thing to plank and or downward facing dog. This transition is hugely popular in a vinyasa yoga setting. So if you are not sure what I'm talking about, here is a quick demo. So usually it's either a side plank and then going back into a plank, or a side plank going back to a down dog. And of course it's the same, when we're flipping from wild thing, go back into a down dog. So this movement looks really cool, kind of cute and very, very flowy. Okay, especially when you're doing the vinyasa class, it just feels so good to be moving in and out of the shapes in a very fluid way. However, I've actually heard people telling me that they are quite intimidated by this transition because when doing it for a while, they feel that the lower back isn't very, very comfortable. So if that is you, then this video is perfect for you to check out. It generally happens when you're flipping back to the starting position, i.e. Back to a down dog or a plank. Simply because, when you're holding the shape, when you're transitioning into a side plank or a wild thing, you want to use a lot of energy and effort to go in that shape and to stay in there. And whenever we exit, a lot of people tend to just kind of ignore or neglect the details or staying engaged when they're exiting. So that is why a lot of the problems seem to happen during the exit. Both shapes, when you're exiting, you should be using the same amount of muscle group or same amount of awareness, but I'll be demoing it in a side plank because it's more visible. So let's do a side plank from this side. So when we're flipping back to, let's say, a plank, a lot of people holding a side plank, okay, go back to a plank. They do this. I'm exaggerating, but if you can see my hips just kind of swinging out to the side and they hold plank. Okay, so in a more natural class setting, it'll be like this. Okay, go back to plank. So it's more like a momentum swing of the hips. That is the reason, or that could be one of the reasons why it causes the lower back to be quite uncomfortable when you're flipping it or when you're doing it too many times. So it's the same for wild thing. So a lot of people tend to lead with the hips, and that is very, very normal because, again, the human body is actually quite lazy, or the brain's quite lazy. It just wants to get the work done using the least amount of effort. So because the hips is a big joint, okay, if they can swing the hips, then the rest of the body must follow, right? So it's a lot easier to use momentum than to actually use the engagement of the muscles. So what you actually want to do is you want to feel, instead of using your hips to just swing back to the original position, you actually want to feel from your ribs all the way to your lower abdomen and just feel this part of the body as one unit. And you actually want to lead with this part of the body and let the hips follow, rather than letting the hips lead and the rest of the body follow. So it's going to be a little bit more work. You need to engage the lower abs, maybe the upper abs a little bit, or actually at least have a bit of awareness before you actually move. So it looks something like this. So side plank again. Okay, whoops, hold. And then, go back to plank. So when I go back to a plank, I would engage here. And I would actually lead with my ribs and go back into a plank. So that movement makes that engagement or that awareness makes the movement a lot more solid, instead of just kind of swinging. And it's the same for wild thing. So I'll do it on this side. So wild thing here, instead of swinging with the hips, flicking back to a down dog, it's quite a bit more work. Engage abs, the entire abs, and then lead back. So take your time, especially when you are closer to the floor. Gravity tends to take over and just want to pull you down. So would require a bit more effort to stay kind of in one piece, in one place, and not just swinging. And this is something that I learned from Bernie Clark, and it was really, really helpful. It makes the transition, it makes the movement more solid and not scattered. So give it a go and let me know how it goes, and I'll see you again soon. Take it easy.